Hey guys, it's BlockchainBrad, and today I'm very honored to speak with the CTO of Enjin Coin. His name is Witek Radomski, and he's here to explain everything that represents Enjin, both today and tomorrow. So welcome to the channel, Witek.
Hi, good to be on.
So mate, the slogan or the statements made on your website are that you are a modular gaming toolkit, essentially a decentralized platform for gaming enthusiasts the world over. But perhaps as the CTO, as the tech specialist, we could explore this further. Give us a rundown on what it means to be a toolkit specifically for gaming.
Sure. So we're a toolkit for two different audiences, for developers, game developers, and for gamers. And so we are building a whole set of tools. Like I can list them off. Like we have a mobile wallet that it's going to be designed completely around the gaming experience. We have SDKs for game engines, and we have like a platform, a trusted platform kind of thing that we're building, and a blockchain explorer, and then a scaling system. Basically, they'll all work hand in hand to give the developers and the players like a seamless experience, cut out a lot of the difficulty in either developing games on the blockchain or using them as a player.
Right, so there's two parts to it, and a lot of people, when they hear of Enjin, they immediately think of games themselves, and they think about the really exciting interface. You have a really user-friendly one, but essentially, really what you want to explain to the people is that you are that robust architecture behind it. You are providing the toolkit and the mechanism for developers to engage and build upon your platform. So let's talk about the blockchain itself. Now, it's been around for some time now, but you've been around a lot longer. Let's talk about the environment of Enjin pre-blockchain and why you chose to move into blockchain.
Sure. So we started out actually a long time ago, probably about 15 years ago, making, before it was even called Enjin, we were making like websites and templates for clans back when there was like Counter-Strike was really big and popular and all that stuff. So then we decided to make kind of social network building platform for gamers. So clans, guilds, and eventually Minecraft servers were able to make their own websites and then even start selling virtual subscriptions or virtual items for their communities. And they were able to, have forums, chat, and gaming events tools and all that stuff. So that really took off. We got millions of users, and it was a real successful business. And then we started, basically last year, we started looking at blockchain. We were interested in blockchain before. We were actually one of the first companies we participated in Bitcoin Black Friday, and you were able to get a subscription on Enjin with Bitcoin. But now in 2017, when Ethereum really started to mature, we started looking at how we could improve on the virtual items kind of offering, right? So we looked at Ethereum, we saw the token things started happening, and we were like, maybe we can start tokenizing items in games. And we started getting into that more, started writing a white paper with our ideas, and we came up with this platform, this whole platform of tools.
I see. Now, obviously, the driver of this is for the people, and we're going to explore that further to really understand the benefits and really why blockchain affords something beyond what you already had. But let's now move into the discussion essentially of the platform in terms of the services that you provide. Now, as we talked about, you are the toolkit. Let's talk about some of those tools, though. You mentioned them loosely, but let's go more into the tools of this auto shop. What do you offer? And let's do a breakdown of them.
Okay, sure. So the core thing that we've released early this year was the Enjin wallet, and that supports, we made it like a general crypto wallet too, so you can store Bitcoin, Litecoin, and all your Ethereum tokens in Ethereum. But the core long-term game plan for this wallet is virtual items in games. And we want it to be like an interface between your wallet and your game. We want that to be really seamless and smooth. So the idea is once these games start coming out, you can pop into a game, either it's on your console or on your PC, and then you just scan a QR code on the game on your wallet, and your wallet instantly links with the game server. And the game server now knows what your wallet address is, for example, and how to send notifications to your phone.
Right. So wallet's a big asset that you provide. And one of the things that I've noticed as well is that the security you've built into that asset, and that wallet is second to none. You yourself actually on stage have said it is the safest in the world. Let's talk about why that is.
Yeah, we looked at wallets that are on the market, and we looked at how they store their keys on the phone, and we weren't impressed with a lot of things. You're able to actually, for example, read the memory, and they keep the decrypted private keys in memory.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these wallets, and a lot of almost basically all the wallets that we checked use these standard crypto libraries that you can look up the source code. You can figure out how it works, and they're not very secure. The way they flush memory out, the way they handle all these things is not the best. So we recoded a lot of these features from the ground up, even down to the keyboard. The keyboard that you use to enter your passwords in cannot be logged by any application. It's completely different design.
Right. And in that respect also, Witek, I wanted to ask you, how does it differ with respect to, say, for example, MyEther wallet? Because obviously that's a very clunky system. How have you improved that for seamlessness of use?
In games, you mean?
Just generally, moreover, for access. And, if I want to utilize the Enjin wallet, how is that so much better and easier than the kind of interfaces we see that are clunky today?
Well, I mean, we added fingerprint support, which is really nice. Like you can unlock the wallet with a fingerprint, which is a huge time saver. And we just made the interface a lot more usable. I mean, Maxim, my co-founder, he's an expert in user interface design. He's been doing it for his whole life, and he structured the wallet so it's a lot simpler and easier to use. It's fast. It's extremely fast. It uses our Enjin X API in the back end. Yeah. And so we're just focusing on speed, usability, just making it really smooth, easy to use.
Great.
So we took the best features and did that.
Well, it's great that you are providing something that's, for the people once again, and it provides for a mechanism that's fundamentally the utility asset. It allows them to store these core digital assets that you're building. But what about the SDKs? Now, obviously, you've got generic built-in capacities. You've got your Java, PHP, you've got your C# and so forth. Let's talk about how you're developing in terms of that SDK facility.
So right now we have the Java SDK. We haven't released it to the public yet, but the Java SDK is ready. The C# SDK is in the works. PHP is somewhat ready. We developed it for our backend APIs to communicate with the games, but it's not really ready for a public-facing, like a public releasable API yet.
Okay.
But what we're going to release as the sort of star product to start with is our Unity SDK and then the Java SDK. And we did the Java because Minecraft was our big sort of first game that we wanted to support. So we developed the full Java SDK, and then we did Unity and PHP, and we're also going to have Node.js and stuff like that. So.
Right. So clearly you're building out these, and you've got a long roadmap for the SDK. Let's now talk about Efinity as well with your scaling solution, and what kind of scalability are you currently testing at and moving towards?
So we're building Efinity in a few stages. In this first stage, we still don't have anything publicly releasable, but we have tested in the around 100 to 200 transactions per second off chain. And we're still working on, we basically got 2 PhD guys that work with us, and they are building a white paper for this public consensus mechanism that we're going to be using. But in the first stage, we're releasing it as a POA, a sort of modified POA, and it's going to be completely secure the way you transfer your tokens in between the chains. It's going to use some elements of Plasma to provide that security for users. But in the long term, we're going to move to a completely decentralized public, larger kind of consensus mechanism that can handle thousands of games.
Right, and I've actually heard you speak of this before. So initially, as you build out, you're also reducing it down to a smaller group, primarily the developers, and then more of a private setting, and then you've got to move out to the public, which is obviously the ideal scenario. But if we could talk now about your token. Now, I want to talk about that with regard to fungibility and non-fungibility. Can you explain to the public the different types of tokens that you represent? They're obviously, some of them are complex and unknown to people, but they are built in for specific reasons. Can we, explore this now and explain what each of them do?
Sure. So I'll just start with the very beginning of tokens on Ethereum. There's ERC-20 tokens, which are your typical kind of cryptocurrency that everybody knows and loves. And you make a token with a symbol and a name, like, Enjin coin, and it can have billions and trillions and quadrillions of units, down to like extreme numbers. These are good for things like currency, like water, rice, and money, and things like that. But then a new standard appeared for non-fungible items. That's ERC 721, and that's good for representing single items like a crypto kitty or a unique signed sword by somebody or things like that.
Right, but as you mentioned, it didn't quite cut it for Enjin. You wanted something better and something that's more multi-functioning simultaneously.
Yeah, there's a lot of limitations and problems with these early token standards. So we were looking for the last 10 months. We were working on this new standard called ERC-1155.
Right.
And what that is it lets you create a big contract with a bunch of behaviors and rules in it. And then that one contract gets deployed on the blockchain. And then as data, you can just input all the tokens you want as game items. And they can be fungible and non-fungible. And they can also have all sorts of cool properties, like they can be bound to an account. They can have transfer fees on them. You can operate on many different tokens at once. Like with our contracts, you can do 200 tokens transferred in one transaction.
And you can you've built in that bundle system as well with the package offerings through this kind of facility.
Well, we've built it, but we actually haven't released the bundles because we still need to do a bit more work. It turned out there was some permissions that needed to happen. But the bundle feature is basically you can keep adding like thousands of tokens to a bundle, any kind of number of tokens, and then you treat that bundle as one token, right?
Right.
And that can be used as a crafted item or anything.
Sorry to interrupt, but so this ERC 1155, now I really want to talk about this further because not a lot of different projects are utilizing this, but clearly for your use case, it's an imperative for the things you've mentioned. We're talking about digital assets that there's a multitude of functions that you now offer through fungibility and non-fungibility. But really, as the leading gaming platform for the decentralized frame, are you concerned at all that it may not be adopted by different exchanges, for example, or different platforms to really integrate and spread this globally?
We've actually been working on ERC 1155 a little bit more, and it's now compatible with ERC 721. So there's also another feature in there that actually makes your fungible tokens compatible with ERC 20. So you can actually have legacy wallets and legacy exchanges support those items. But the beast is, if you have a game with thousands or tens of thousands of item types, the old interfaces are not going to work too well with that design, right? So you're going to have to use the ERC 1155 to represent a real game's entire understanding.
And with that respect, do you see many other like gaming platforms that are in this domain of decentralized business trying to adopt this same token, this same ERC 1155?
Yeah, we were actually, I can't mention the name of the game, but they're a very well-known blockchain game, and they've actually studied our ERC 1155 spec and reference implementation in great detail, and we had a huge conversation with them a few days ago. And they made their whole new implementation that has all these cool crafting features that's specific for their game, all this cool stuff. So, and it works with side chains in their own setup. So it's pretty cool. We're seeing that happen. And obviously all the games that are starting to use Enjin are using 1155 as well.
Well, we're looking forward to hearing about what that game actually is, and it sounds like it's already well known. But let's now talk about autonomy and the kind of affordances made for utilizing this as well. My understanding is that rules are much more seamless in the way in which governance is autonomous. I, as a user, have much more control because of this particular token. Is that right?
Yes. So with tokens, what you're really talking about is an agreement between the owner and the creator, or the person who either wrote the contract, or the game developer, in our sense, the game developer who's creating these tokens, who's setting them up, putting all the settings in. They create all the rules, and they're like, this token, this sword there's only going to be 20 copies, and in code you'll know that that's the case, and the player is now guaranteed that fact. And if there's a transfer fee on it, the player knows that up front. If there's any sort of settings, behaviors, everybody knows what they're dealing with. So it's not that like they can just destroy that or change the rules one day. It often happens in games that game developers, something happens in the business and they have to change things around. Items get, things start getting messed up and people get angry and yeah.
Sure, I totally understand. Now, if we talk about that in conjunction with compatibility of the overall, widespread ecosystem that has become essentially cryptocurrency, you're compatible currently with BTC, Litecoin, Ethereum, and then the ERC-20 with a multitude of different, tokens there. Are you also expanding beyond that in the future?
Well, we have ERC-1155 support and we have ERC-721 support as well in our wallet.
Sure.
So that's fully supported, and we're also releasing a blockchain explorer, Enjin X, and that has support for all the standards as well, and all these tokens and all these cryptos.
I see.
Yeah.
So really, it's expanding, far beyond what you originally started with, which was Ethereum itself and ERC-20. So congratulations there. Now, if we could talk a little bit more, I suppose, on the layers as well. Like, from my understanding, there are layers in your design. Can we talk a little bit about how that works?
Well, there's different pieces that talk to each other, right? So there's the core of the backend is the trusted platform, and we needed to create a piece of software that can do things like send push notifications to wallets, right? And read from the blockchain and decipher that data, turn it into something a game can use. So the trusted platform is something that game developers can run on their own servers, and we're also going to host a cloud version on our own servers. Right now, we just have the cloud version for our early adopters in beta form right now. Right. But yeah, basically it just facilitates all these things. So you need this to read the blockchain because there's so much data, it turns into usable data.
Sure. Now, Pat, one of your colleagues, one of the core members of Enjin, he also recently, well, some time ago actually, but he spoke on stage about the cycle itself, and there were key parts all the way down to melting. Do you want to just talk about that a bit? Because it was really interesting the way he had a graphic up to basically summarize the functionality of Enjin from beginning to end.
Yeah, if I can't remember his exact graphic,
well,
but
I can help you out. I can help you out.
Okay.
So there were some parts. We're starting with acquisition, through to minting, then gaming, then trading and melting. So I can help you out as we go. I totally appreciate this as throwing a bit of a curveball, but it was such a good way, I felt, that he explained the core functions of the ecosystem.
Yeah. So the one thing you have to understand about Enjin coin items first is that they contain Enjin coin. When a game developer creates an item on the platform, they have to put some amount of Enjin coin in the item. So every item contains a bit of reserve value, and that is a bit of like first it's a certification, sort of that you're on that platform, that you're using Enjin Coin's system, and it also gives players some security when if they need to melt the item or things like that. So
right.
Game developers will need to acquire some Enjin coin. That can be either through getting it on an exchange, or they could work with us because we have a reserve amount of Enjin coin for all the earliest games and adopters and partnerships that we make. And then they can start creating these items. And so they mint the items and they put in some Enjin coin in the items and set up all the rules and hit mint, and that gets created on the blockchain.
Right. And then from there, you've obviously got the gaming aspect, which we've talked at length with. There's a suite of different tools available for anyone to go and develop their game. But then it moves down to trading. And I think that's the key point that I really wanted to hit a home run on, because perhaps people don't understand exactly how that trading mechanism can work, because it's got more than one aspect to it.
Yeah, so now gamers, because they own their items that they picked up in games, they can trade them outside of the game. They can trade them on websites, or they can trade them directly through the blockchain. And we do have an atomic trade system live on the mainnet, which means you can define, like, I want to trade these 10 items for these 5 other items of this other guy. And player 1 creates the trade, player 2 completes the trade. And
Sure.
that happens in one atomic transaction.
Sure. And in that respect, I wanted to talk to you about some of the controversies also, because you can actually restrict the trade itself in some way. You can even decide how much you're going to value one particular asset as well. And so once again, that can be a controversy in itself because of that degree of autonomy. So are you concerned at all about those two aspects as well of the trade?
Well, I mean, game developers can set certain restrictions, and I mean, that will be known about the game. Maybe the game developer is going to be charging a 2% fee for trading on one game. Some game developers want to keep it as open as possible just for their game to become successful. It depends on how they want to monetize, right?
Sure, but I guess my question is, because obviously you are the platform itself, are you concerned at all some of these games themselves, these developers may technically or theoretically at least post or append some sort of a design or metric that isn't necessarily conducive of a fair system?
Well, some game developers, I mean, want to charge fees, right? And I mean, that it's up to the players to decide if they're going to use their items, right? So it's really up to the players and the game developers to find something in between themselves that works. And, you know, it's not up to us to decide this. We just make the options available. And some people are deciding to charge, you know, small fees. Some people are deciding to be open. Some people are deciding to restrict trading and only allow it through their sort of allowed marketplace in game or whatever.
Sure. So in that respect, you truly are decentralized and not trying to, you know, mitigate or control the equation. Well,
we also don't take fees ourselves for any of these things. It's fully goes to game developer player.
And we are going to talk about that very soon with regard to how on earth you are sustainable because of that. But let's just finish off this part of the cycle with melting, because it's quite cool what you can do as an insurance policy, the worst case of all, but you do offer melting as an option.
Yes. So because these items, when they're minted, they contain some Enjin coin. Anyone who owns that item, they will always have the power to melt it, and that just gives them back Enjin coin in return, and the item gets destroyed. And either, depending on how the item is set up, you know, either the game developer can now create a new copy of that, or they can't. It depends on the supply models they have set.
Right. Well, it's an interesting concept, and it certainly allows for some sort of safeguard in those who are investing in the utility of certain, I guess, digital assets. But again, let's go to the discussion of sustainability with regard to revenue generation, how you make money. How are you going to sustain the business of the tech if you're not charging those fees to the developers?
Yeah, so while we do have quite a bit of runway because we did the ICO, we have multiple years of runway. We do have to start looking at services, and we're going to be providing a bunch of services. One of them is the blockchain API that we're building, Enjin X, and we've seen some instability and some complaints about some of the other APIs out there. They're very good, but we think that we can do it just as good or maybe better. So we're building a Blockchain Explorer API. It has more features than the existing solutions. Has more sort of human-friendly features, developer-friendly features, cool, you know, ways to view your data. So we're gonna charge for that service if you want to use at a high scale, high volume, like a developer or wallet developer or game developer wants to use that. So that's one service. There's also going to be a charge for if you're running a large game on the trusted platform. If you want to host it on our cloud, then that's probably easier for a lot of people to do than set up their own servers, their own reliability and backups and all this stuff. So you can just, you know, pay a fee to Enjin and we will host it.
Right. So basically the ICO is provided for an interim amount of money as you're building out the platform itself. I also noticed on your website that you do charge for different services currently, you know, not just the blockchain component of Enjin. So again, you're already receiving revenue for different services you offer.
Yes. So we have the subscription plans on the Enjin CMS, and that's continually going, and we're making revenue there.
Right. So it's exciting to hear that you are moving, though, into that service model so that, again, it explains why you can be feeless for the developer. And that in itself is quite rare, I would imagine. Are you aware of any other competitor out there trying to bring decentralized gaming to the fore that does that kind of feeless system?
I don't know. I don't look too closely into what the competitors are offering. I mean, we keep our eye on the competition, but there's no one really quite doing the same. There's no one that's doing the same offering as Enjin is right now. Like we're trying to be the turnkey platform. We're focusing purely on game developers, like mainstream game developers, indie game developers, not really on, like, while we support blockchain game developers, that's not what we're focused on. So we're just trying to get it into like nice mainstream kind of games that everybody's used to.
Sure. And given that you are already pre-existing, pre-blockchain, I think that's also what sets you apart, because you've had a mechanism, and you've also had the money to build out this feeless system. And that may be something that many of these other ones coming forth haven't been able to do. And they've relied so heavily on an alternative. And
we do have an audience. Like, we still have a lot of Minecraft servers, and we are actually going to be showing off some really cool Minecraft stuff. Pat's putting together a developer update because everybody's wanting to see. We've been talking about Minecraft for quite a while. So we've got some really nice Minecraft stuff ready now, and that's going to roll out to those people as well.
Well, that's exciting, because in terms of the global reach, Minecraft, where would you position that in terms of popularity?
I would say at least in the top 5, it was probably the biggest game on the PC for quite a while there.
Sure. So that's certainly one to have associations with. It certainly has merit in this space. Now, I want to talk to you about identity, because that's often likened to the wallet that we've talked about. Why is identity sovereignty and control so important? And why did it drive you to build this out to allow for someone, like me, who may not know that much about, the gaming as a use case, to really just, have some sort of autonomy?
Well, we see that the current gaming landscape for online games, all the time, it's always been this way. You have this sort of god figure game developer that's, they create the rules of the world. They're also the central bank. They can generate items at will. And we've always known that having, like, this kind of full power could cause problems. And you see a lot of games, like if you go back to MMOs, as an MMO progresses, oftentimes the economies start getting really messed up, the items start getting messed up, all the old items become useless, they release new items to keep people interested, and it gets really kind of, I don't know, I don't know what word to use for it, but the economies get really weird because developers can manipulate and nerf and mess with items. And that's one aspect. Now you can actually have rare items that stay rare, that can't be cranked out. And you can have these things that are guaranteed to the player. And then secondly, I don't know, I've had accounts banned for various reasons in games. And, you don't want to, if you've built up a character for so long, and then let's say your Steam account gets banned, you lose everything over all your games, right? That's devastating to someone who's really into gaming. So we think that gamers will actually value their items a lot more now that they're crypto items, because they'll know that they receive them, that they're actually getting something that it's like a physical item that they can store in their vault and they can use and trade at will. And that brings me to trading at will. Like, when have you played a game and been able to do things with the items outside of that game's walled garden? It's never really possible. I don't know when that's been possible. Now that you can take that game, you have that global sort of API that anyone can use, any website can use, anyone can view and manipulate. You can send transactions, you can trade outside of the game in multiple games. That's really powerful, and I think it's going to give people a different feeling and a different value to the game items.
Sure, and essentially what you're allowing is for people to be able to pick up that digital asset and then move beyond that use case of that particular game and really just stretch it far beyond. It's a bit like YouTube, for example. Ironically, we're speaking through that medium, but it is centralized by design. And then you have alternatives coming forth. We're seeing things like Steemit come now, but essentially, again, it's all about trying to provide for more of that authorship, that authorization, that self-regulation of information, and in this case, a digital asset. So I think that this really is something that people are going to find very appealing as we move further and further into understanding how blockchain can bridge the business problems that we see in this kind of degree of control, even right down to Google. there are serious issues with centralization. So,
oh yeah, it's
so
huge.
it's really, I think, one of the key features that you offer. Now, to achieve this, you have to have a stellar team. I want to talk to you about with Pat, obviously leading this with his experience and yourself, but really, how big is your team currently, given that you have ICO'd and you have the money to build it out?
I can't give an exact number, but it's between 30 to 35 people right now. And a large chunk of them are developers and technical people. So we have a lot of amazing people that I respect. Like we've hired people that are, in their fields, they're much better than me in what they do. They're really intelligent, top of the line developers. I really respect all of them.
Right, and then coupled with that, how is everything going with community engagement? What are you doing, given that this is a unique scenario where the world of media becomes imperative for your business to evolve? What are you doing to really inform and, more importantly, grow the media component globally?
So in terms of community engagement, like we have a Telegram that we're always talking on. We have people from our team there all the time. You can talk to the core team members. We post blog articles all the time about our progress, about our ideas or philosophy, crazy Ilya, who writes a lot of these things, his mind is always in outer space talking about multiverses and stuff, and it's really fun. And we're actually doing some really cool things. We're hiring some art kind of stuff, doing some really cool art stuff in the background, which is going to come out soon. It'll really connect to the community.
Awesome.
We're building, yeah.
Sorry, what about ambassador programs? I understand you've also built those in.
Yeah, we have an early adopter program. So basically, any game developer who wants to use this in their game, they talk to Roger from our team or Pat or Kim, and they show us what they're trying to do. And if we see that's a legitimate project, then we help them out. We provide some Enjin coin tokens, and we provide them all the resources, our beta software to start using to build the game. And we also spread word about them in social media and promote them as much as we can.
Right. And is there anything else you can think of that you're building out, you're doing currently to really spread, the business platform? Because obviously that's the premise, is you want as many people to adopt this as early as possible before other designs, enter the marketplace.
Yeah, I'm actually currently packing my bags. I'm going to be going to Europe and be traveling and meeting a whole bunch of game developers in Europe. Lots of game developers that I play their games and I really respect. And we're going to be meeting in conference rooms. I'm going to be actually showing them the technology, showing them kind of being a wizard and showing them, oh, look how the items are transferring into the game, and boom, you can show this item from the other game into this game, and like show them all this stuff, and then try to open their minds about blockchain. A lot of them see what we do.
So it sounds like you're trying to secure more business. And on that note, I wanted to ask you, Witek, what current partnerships do you know about that you haven't perhaps disclosed, or that you can disclose, given that they're quite fresh, or perhaps that Pat's been doing deals with, or anyone in the team? What kind of partnerships are you forging with traditional business, with enterprise?
Well, we're mostly focused on game developers. So we're working with game developers, and we're working with media on another side. We're trying to find some type of use cases in non-gaming, but our main focus is really talking to game developers, and we have a whole palette of game. Like they just keep coming. They want to use blockchain. Some of them have tried to implement on their own, and it turned out to be too much work. So. What
about pre-existing games themselves? For example, we mentioned Minecraft as one. What about some others? Because obviously what's important is that you are bringing in the traditional business sector, the gaming sector as well.
Yeah, well, that's why we're talking to as many game developers that have a track record, and we're trying to inspire them to use blockchain. And I'm going to be meeting up with a lot of game developers in Europe now in the next few weeks and showing them this stuff.
And sorry to interrupt, but are they also ones that represent pre-existing games themselves that are already in the market?
Yes.
The centralized market, I mean.
Yeah, definitely. They're all mainstream game developers. That's what our main focus is.
Sure. Now let's talk about users. I've read a number on your website currently of 19 million. Previously, when I was studying you months ago, I read numbers much larger than that as well. How big is the current user base, or the those that are already adopting some aspect of Enjin?
So the 19, it's like 19 to 20 million roughly, and these are the users on the CMS platform. And you know, that's over the last 10 years. We have they come back. We have somewhere in the range of a couple million using it, kind of within, you know, a 30-day range or whatever. But that's, you know, 20 million that have signed up. We have contact with them, and we still have not actually reached out to that community. We want to wait till the platform is fully ready, and then we're going to start reaching out to our existing Enjin community and finding ways to connect with them.
Wow, so you haven't even reached out to them, as you've said. That's almost as many people as my entire country of Australia. So that's quite a substantial target market for the future of Enjin. You must be excited about the potential.
Yes, definitely.
Right. Well, let's, I guess, let's finish off with some sort of final statements from you, Witek. It's been an absolute honor and privilege to learn more about exactly what you stand for. I certainly have today come to understand different facets of the diamond you're shaping up to be. But is there anything you'd like to say to finish off and address the community?
I just want people to be inspired by what can be done with blockchain. This is a really cool technology. I want people to look at. I want game developers to start thinking about how you can use this to make cool gameplay experiences. I'm going to be kind of trying to inspire people with ideas and examples of gameplay, cool things that's never been done before. Just using blockchain to create new gameplay tools, and with that, we'll see people adopting this, using these tools, and then, you know, the dream of blockchain is going to come to people.
Absolutely. Well, thank you on behalf of all those who love gaming, who love blockchain, and simply who love change with regard to business, because this is all about a decentralized framework that's really going to revolutionize how people can have autonomy in the marketplace. You are leading this in the specific sector of gaming. And once again, Witek Radomski, thank you very much for your time. You are the co-founder of Enjin, and you are one of the key leaders of something that is arguably going to be very popular and a real use case using blockchain. Thank you again.
Thanks, it was a pleasure.
You're welcome.